Folks, we're about 2 minutes out. If I could ask you to take your seats. Good evening and welcome to the Garnet Fire Informational Meeting for September 17th. My name is Nathan Judy, Information Officer for California Interagency Incident Management Team 5. I'll be your facilitator for tonight's meeting. We ask that you, if folks in the room, if you have questions, we have cards in the back of the room. Please fill those out with your questions, and a PIO will come grab those cards from you. Tonight you're going to hear from members of the Incident Command Team, our partners, and forest staff. Again, afterwards, we'll get to the questions. After the formal presentation, we'll go to the cards that were in the room, as well as the ones that were emailed online. First up, we're going to bring up our Operations Section Chief, Stephen Clark.
All right, good afternoon. I'm Stephen Clark. I'm here with California Incident Management Team 5. I am Operations Section Chief and currently working on strategic ops. So for an overview of the fire we have out there, it's currently at 59,844, 87% contained, represented by the black line around the map. And then it is, we have about 2,000 personnel on the incident. So currently, our highest priority is up here in the north on the McKinley Grove Road, tying that line in up there, making it secure, having it where we can call it contained. And containment is where we feel that the fire is not going to escape out that line. So with the rest of the fire that is contained, currently there's people out there mopping up, patrolling, and we're starting to do fire suppression repair. So the fire suppression repair is the lines we're not using, and those that are needing some soil stabilization. And that's starting down here in the south, and we're working our way around the fire on some of the alternate and contingency lines. And then with that, up in the Grove, we drove up in there. Ernie and I drove up in there today. That's looking pretty good up in the top. I think we're getting closer to calling containment up there, but we still want to make sure that's secure with the fire line and having the heat and smoke that we can see from the road back down in there. So that's all I have.
Perfect. Thanks, Stephen. Next up, we're going to bring our incident meteorologist, Terry Lebo.
Good evening, everyone. So we have some interesting weather coming up the next couple of days, so I'll give you a heads up on what I think is going to happen. There is a lot of uncertainty, I will say that. So we have the remnants of Tropical Storm Mario that was down to the south, and that's going to be moving north, bringing moisture with it. So the last 2 days, we've been very warm and very dry. We've had triple-digit heat down in the valleys. We've had RHs down around 10%. Up in the higher elevations, we've even seen close to 90. So it's been very warm and very dry. But thankfully, we haven't had wind, and that's allowed kind of the smoke to come up, and the firefighters can get to it. Now we're going into that pattern change, and like I said, there's a lot of uncertainty, and the problem is, as that moisture comes up, the low that's the remnants of Mario moving with it, there's going to be a trough that kind of starts to move south off the Pacific coast. And the low from Mario and that trough are going to interact, and their interaction is going to depend, and that's going to determine where the moisture goes, and that's going to determine how much rain we get. There's going to be places that are going to get an inch of rain, maybe even more. But I think most of that is going to be to the west of us. Thankfully, though, I think we are going to get a good amount of rain. We'll start to see the moisture coming up tomorrow. The humidities are going to drop down into the 30s initially, and then they're going to start to rise, and we'll start to get a little bit of moisture lowering. We'll start to get some rain. Looking like it's going to be, timing is like 4 or 5 p.m. That's what we think right now. Could be a little bit earlier, but I want to be a little bit later just in case, we do end up with more dry weather tomorrow during the day. And then the better moisture comes in tomorrow night. And so it's looking like tomorrow night, potential across the fire is anywhere from 3/10 to half an inch of rain. And that's probably going to be over the span of 8 to 12 hours, which that would be perfect, as long as we don't get a lot of rain all at once. The other good news is that with it being overnight, there's not going to be crews out there. So if we do get some kind of debris flow or any type of excessive rain, the crews aren't going to be impacted. Now, I've been talking with operations. They're going to be moving all their heavy equipment to solid roads so that that's not going to get stuck, not going to cause more problems. If we do get an excessive amount of rain, there are only a couple areas, it looks like, from what I've seen pictures and stuff, where a debris flow would be a concern. And it doesn't look like it would be anywhere where it's going to impact any of the public as well. So that's another good thing. And then as we get out of that moisture is going to move out tomorrow or Friday morning. Friday morning, we'll start to see that dry out. Then we're going to have a chance of showers and thunderstorms, but I think they're mostly going to be on the Sierra Crest, so to the west or to the east of us, on that higher terrain, and that's typical. We all know that. Then that's going to move out of here, and then for the weekend, we'll start to dry out. Not crazy dry, but it will dry a little bit. And we'll see the temperatures come up just a little bit as we get a little bit of ridging to build. But then that low pressure that I was talking about that's going to be off the coast, that trough, that's going to move on shore. Looks like Tuesday, Wednesday time frame. And that'll bring us another shot of showers and thunderstorms. Again, that's probably going to be on the crest itself, but it's going to bring another increase in moisture. So even if we don't get rainfall, it's going to bring the higher humidity, which that's really good for the fuels, help bring that moisture up in the fuels so things don't want to burn. I will say this, I feel a lot more confident about the forecast for Tuesday and Wednesday as far as showers and thunderstorm potential than I do with the forecast Thursday night, Friday. It's just, again, that interaction with those two lows and where that moisture is going to go. But I do feel confident that we are going to get measurable rain. It's just, is it going to be 3/10 to half an inch, or there may be somewhere where it is 3/4 of an inch, or maybe even an inch if you get a cell that goes right over the area. The good thing is, out ahead of it, no dry light.
Night, just because there's just not as much fire behavior out there. Okay, so that's really just due to all the hard work that the men and women out there on the line have been putting in, and just to kind of get a sense of the scope of that, fire is almost 60,000 acres. That's about 93 square miles. It's the size of Palm Springs. The distance around that fire is about 130 miles. That's a drive from here to Modesto. So every inch or every foot of that fire line going all the way around has been touched by a human hand or a machine. So it's just a huge accomplishment and the amount of scope of work. That doesn't mean that we're completely out of the woods. We're pretty much out of the woods, but there's still some backing and some smoldering, and occasional tree that's torching, or dead tree will catch on fire, and that produces a little bit of ember cast. And with those hot, dry conditions, we could still get a spot. But as the mop up continues and that starts to be really, really far interior, the risk is going down, and then the rain's going to help. You're probably still going to see smoke on the landscape even after this rain, probably till you get a couple inches over a course of 3 days to a week, just because of the size of some of that material that's down and it's just smoldering. And it's just going to take a while, but that perimeter is going to be mopped up to the point where that's not really going to be much of a concern for us other than the smoke. So that's it for the fire behavior shop. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate that. Next up from Fresno County Sheriff's Office, Lieutenant Hamilton.
Good evening. I'm Matt Hamilton, and I'm the Area 4 Commander, so I command all the area that's east of the Frank Kern Canal, all the mountain areas. My offices are in Auberry and on the south side in Squaw Valley. And I'm here to talk about our evacuations and the changes that we've had recently. So this is our evacuation map. On the eastern edge, we've removed all the warnings out on the eastern edge. We removed all the warnings south of the Kings River. And then everything north of the Kings River, immediately north of the Kings River, has been moved from a orders to a warning. And then on the west side of the fire, we've lifted the warnings, and we've split a couple of zones up. You might have noticed. So K30A was split, putting the southern portion of it into a warning, and K29B was also split, putting the north side of that, where Dinky Creek is, into a warning. So we're watching very closely at this section here on McKinley Grove Road, and as soon as we can safely do so, we'll look at starting to open up more areas and putting more areas into a warning. And hopefully that should happen in the next several days. That's all I have. And I'm sorry, one more thing. We do have deputies that are assigned in the patrolling, and so they're looking for anybody that could be in there that doesn't belong. And so far, we haven't had any reports of any type of theft or anything, but they'll be available if we do get reports of that once people start returning to their homes. So that's all I have. I will stick around, so if you have any questions specifically for the sheriff's office, please come up, and I'll be happy to talk to you afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Lieutenant. Appreciate that. Next up, we have your Shaver Lake Fire Chief, Steve McQuillan.
Hello, folks. Well, 10 days ago, we had a whole different feeling about what was going on east of us. So at this point in time, well, things look really, really good. Last week, we were fully staffed. Your volunteer fire department had enough members here to staff every engine. So if, God forbid, the fire had gotten near any of the homes, we would have been able to surround your homes and do structure protection. We have now gone back to our normal staffing, which means we're here, we'll be here long after all the people here are gone, except for Matt and the Fresno County Sheriffs. Your volunteer fire department will still be here. So if you ever need us, numbers in the book, and just give us a call. Thanks.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate that. Next up, we have Resource Advisor Todd Ellingsworth.
Ellsworth.
Ellsworth. There you go.
All right, thank you. Good evening, everybody. So Todd Ellsworth, Resource Advisor. So our role on the fire is to evaluate some of the impacts of actually putting out the fire on some of the critical natural and cultural resources. So for instance, we have dozer lines and hand lines and safety zones and those kinds of things on the landscape. So we evaluate, what those impacts might be to some of our critical natural and cultural resources. And then we work with the fire team to develop a plan and some mitigations and prescriptions to then the team's going to be here, and it usually takes a little bit longer. There's quite a bit of dozer line, hand line, and those types of things. So that's what we do as resource advisors, and that's kind of the first step in post-fire recovery. And this weekend, there's a burned area emergency response team, or BEAR, coming, and they look at the post-fire effects of the fire on life, safety, property, natural and cultural resources. And one of the key products that they produce is some of the debris flow maps people have seen in the past, potential impacts of post-fire erosion in areas, and those types of things. And we, some of the key products are shared out to, you know, like the sheriff's department, if there's going to be different erosional impacts impacting roads or houses and those types of things, and the debris flow maps, and working with the Weather Service to determine trigger points for those kind of debris flows and erosional events. And then if there are sort of unacceptable impacts, then we put in for funding to help mitigate that and implement those types of things too. So that's kind of the second phase coming up real soon. Okay.
All right, thank you, Todd. Appreciate that. Next up, from the Sierra National Forest District, Ranger Kim Serini Wilson.
Good evening, Kim Serini Wilson. I'm the District Ranger and Agency Administrator Trainee. So I want to go over a few things with you guys this evening. The first that I wanted to talk about, we talked about dozer lines. Those dozer lines that we have out in the field, many of them will remain open so that we can utilize them. Some of them go with our partner, Southern California Edison. So we have, I'm not sure, I'd have to ask Todd how many dozer lines. However, we will be leaving that open for future use because we go to the same area when a fire shows up. So it is best if we leave that open. The other thing I wanted to share with you is that we talked about hunting last time I was here. So for the area that you're in is D7, and so that the majority of the forest is open. There is only the small portion that we're going to look at. Oh, so let me tell you this part. So while you're waiting, the one piece that we have is Dinky Creek. This is Dinky Creek Road, and these folks are waiting. They were doing what was called a 45-15. They were cutting trees for 45 minutes. They clear them out of the way, and then the person who is the at the block says, okay, time to go. So they allow 15 minutes of cars going through. So Dinky Creek Road. Please take note. I think we waited maybe 20, 25 minutes when we were taking the media team in last Saturday. So it does take a bit of time, but just be aware of that. So that will still be in place. Here's some of the equipment that you're seeing alongside the road, or it's parked because they're done for the day. It depends on what time you're on the road. And so this is the equipment that we're saying, hey, you know what? We need to have a blockade so that this equipment, when it's moving trees, cutting trees, decking trees, everything you can do with a tree, that you guys are safe and so are they. The next one is our proposed forest closure. When the forest closure occurs, it's proposed, so it will go into place on Thursday night or Friday morning. So as you can see, the yellow is where we were at before, and then the red is our new proposed area. And so with that, we will be opening up approximately 43,000 acres with this modification that you see here. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Appreciate that. Next up, we're going to bring up our Deputy Incident Commander, Alex McBath.
All right, good to see everybody again. Anybody watching on YouTube or Facebook, welcome. All right, so I was here about 6 days ago, and we went from 14% to 17%, which I got a lot of cheers. Currently, we are sitting, this just came in, at 89%. So we're doing really well out there. Now, with that containment, you know, we had great timing on weather. So right after we got in, the weather kind of cooled down, and we got a big load of resources that were filled. And we took a lot of advantage of that weather and resource fills to get the containment to where it is today. We're also at 59,544 acres. I think when I was here, I told you it was going to be about 64,000 when we were done. We're done. That's what it's going to stay at. So we were able to shave about 5,000 acres off that total. So that's a good job on the operations folks, and a good job on the strategic ops that you just heard from earlier. Additionally, we are down to 1,844 folks from a high of 3,100 folks just 2 days ago, 3 days ago. Why that is because those folks aren't needed now. So we're fiscally responsible. We're making sure we have the right resources, and we're demobbing some. We're ordering some other stuff. For example, we're getting rid of or demobbing masticators because the mastication's done, but we have to reorder excavators to continue the suppression repair. So that's where we're at with the demob and the folks. That's why it's going down. So real good job. We're getting engine strike teams back into the system for the next fire. Hot shot crews, CAL FIRE crews, they finished up. We're bringing those numbers down. So that's a good sign from the standpoint that we're reducing folks. That means we're feeling good out there. Now, when I was here earlier, I told you, kind of what the next 3 days was going to bring. We've met that. So now I'm going to tell you what it looks like through Sunday. So right now, we are finishing up on the north end. It has line on it. They're finishing up the mop-up to make sure that line holds. Like I said, we had good weather again. We had hot and dry weather the last 2 days, which gave us the security to know anything that was out there that could catch us would have done it. Now we're going into cooler weather. Now it's going to just stop. We have everything mopped up that needed to be. We feel good with that. Now with the cooler weather in, we should start seeing the smoke diminish. So from just 6 days ago to now, huge gains, but there's still a lot of work out there to do. As you heard from Kim, there's a lot of repair out there to do. And so that's going to be the next step, as well as to continue making sure that this stays within the lines it has. So with that, thank you, and looking forward to your questions.
Thanks, Alex. Appreciate that. Now we're going to go into the questions and answers that you guys submitted through email and the ones that you guys submitted here in the room. First up, we're going to bring Assistant Deputy Chief for the Sierra National Forest, Joaquin Marquez. Thank you. Here you go, sir.
How you doing this evening? Yeah, so I wanted to talk about the initial day of the fire, but I want to back up just a couple of days for you. So on Friday, the 22nd, the forest went into a staffing pattern. With all the other fires that were going on in California and resources out of state on other incidences, we went into a 24-hour staffing pattern here on the Sierra National Forest, where all our IA resources, they didn't go home. They stayed getting ready for the what was coming over the weekend, the weather that was expected that was coming in. So with that, Southern California started getting lightning Friday night. Us here on the Sierra started getting our lightning at about 1 o'clock Saturday afternoon. At the initial start of that strikes, we ended up with 8 fires on the 23rd, which 90% of those resources that we kept on that 24-hour staffing pattern, they were on the fires, on the 8 fires that were out on the force. A lot of them were up in the Courtright, Washawn area. They were back in the wilderness, back even further out there. We did have a helicopter that was on. Sierra Hotshots were on. We had multiple engines on the force with cover engines that were with us. And like I said, 90% of those resources were on those fires. We did have, and they were catching them. They were doing really good on them. We had a little bit of rain with them. So we were able to keep most of those down to less than an acre on most of those fires there. Come the 24th, the morning of the 24th is when the Garnet fire was first reported to us on the Sierra, which we sent our remaining 2 engines that were down out of trimmer. We sent our engine out to go verify that fire was there, along with the patrol and our air attack. As air attack came on scene, we were told the fire was at 40 acres. It was in the old rough fire scar up on the hill. So it was in the thicker grass. It was outside of where the basin was the year before. So it was just outside of that. So it was in the heavy grass that was still there. So the folks that were out there called, asked for additional resources. Additional resources were ordered. And we had another lightning event come through that afternoon. So as the orders that were coming in, we got a Arrowhead Hot Shots came in. They were here about 1800. We had a second engine that showed up earlier in the morning, about 11 o'clock. We did have a Gulfstripe team that showed up that afternoon too. And then a couple more engines from the north side of the forest that we pulled in to help. We did have another, like I said, a lightning event that happened the afternoon of the 24th that about 1600 that came in, and where we had a thunder cell that collapsed over the fire. That thunder cell had outflow winds of 20 to 30 miles an hour that really pushed the fire on us. And it was now burning in the Basin Fire Scar, which you would have thought it would have slowed down because that just burned last year, and it's still, the winds just pushed that thing further down the hill towards Balch Camp. So we did start getting resources in. We had orders placed for the next morning to be here first thing. Multiple hotshot crews, multiple hand crews, multiple engines were ordered. Actually, Sunday we pulled the trigger on the Type 3 team that was ordered, and about 2 hours later we decided to order a critical incident management team. That's how fast that fire was moving on us because of the outflow winds that were happening from the thunder cells that moved over. So that was the 24th. It was a challenging day. Like I said, with the other fires, we had 8 other fires. This was number 9 that most likely did start on the 23rd, but wasn't detected. We had aircraft detected flying after on the 23rd after the cells had broken through. About 2,100 lightning strikes in the area between the Sequoia, us, the Yosemite, and Sequoia Kings and Stanislaus. So that, and the day before there was about 700 lightning strikes on the Sequoia and south of there. So it was a busy time for the folks on the forest trying to keep everything as small as possible. And then the follow-up the next 2 days, on the Garnet fire was very challenging because the same thing happened the next 2 days where we had firefighters, we started getting resources in, but the thunder cells are still coming in, and they collapsed. The same thing, outflow winds, but those outflow winds ended up being 40 to 50 miles an hour. We had that for 2 additional days. And then you seen what happened on the 25th, the morning lightning that came through that got us, again, pretty good. We ended up with 47 fires on the Sierra National Forest between the High Sierra District and the Bass Lake District. And we had that Type 3 team manage all those while the critical incident management team managed the Garnet fire. So challenging couple of weeks for the folks on the ground. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate that. We've got some questions from our operations, so we'll go ahead and bring up our operations section chief, Steve Clark.
Okay, first question that was sent in was, are aerial assets still being used to fight the fire? If not, why? From what I can tell based on using several websites that track aircraft, that does not appear to be the case. So first of all, aerial assets are being used on the fire. We have them available. We have the air attack, so we can still go out and spot and see if there's any trouble areas. It'll give information back to the ground resources that may not be able to see through the smoke. We also have helicopters assigned to the fire in case anything gets outside the fire's perimeter. We have the bucket capability with water. Some of the challenges with aircraft is it doesn't just put fire out when you put water on it. We really need the ground resources there to mix that water in and put that fire out. So yes, we do have aircraft assigned to the fire. Next question, Blue Canyon fire lines. During today's update 916 on the Garnet fire, can you show approximately how many and where the fire suppression or dozer lines are located on the map, if any? So if we zoom in on the Blue Ridge or the Blue Canyon, that's this western edge of the fire. It's a very large canyon. So if you just take the edge of the fire here, that's where our dozer lines are. And then we've done some contingency lines out here to the west on the opposite side of the Blue Canyon. So I don't know how many miles that is, We heard from the fire behavior that we have a lot of miles of dozer line out here, but they are out here in the areas where needed. During the morning video, next question, during the morning video, operational update video 916, it states it would take few weeks, a month for fire suppression. Would roads such as McKinley Grove Road be open, or would they have to wait until all suppression work is done? And would roads be your main focus to start clearing and opening? So I think our main purpose here is to put the fire out and make it safe for all the public. You know, we want you to travel back through your local roads, everyone's hunting grounds, get to your favorite cabin, but we want you to be able to do that safely before we leave. So we're gonna mitigate hazard trees. We're gonna do some road repair where needed. So yes, we will start doing that as we are right now, working on some suppression repair. And next question, first, as requested, describe briefly the difference of the fire incident's hand lines, dozer lines, and fuel breaks. So the size of the material, the BTUs it puts off, the flame lengths is determined how wide that line generally is. So hand line is as wide as it needs to be because it's people fighting that fire. So generally a 4 to 8 foot flame length, we can have people there. It could be a hand line. So it's easier to get in there. It's not very big, usually 1.5 times the height of the material. So, and then you just progress that up through the rest of the lines. Dozer lines, much wider, bigger material, fire, the flame lengths are longer. So it can't be hand cut. So we use dozers to put that in. That could be anywhere from a 10-foot scrape with the dozer up to 10 blades wide. So we try to do the minimal as we can because we're trying to get around that fire and hold it effectively. Fuel break lines. Fuel breaks generally, and I've worked fuels management for 15 years in small community that you guys live in now. So a fuel break, generally we're looking at, areas that are gonna protect, sensitive areas, high value areas. And it's not that it can stop the fire every single time, but it's a good place you can fight fire from. That line's there, it's shaded, hopefully a grass understory. And the object would be to get the watershed areas. My question is to explain the reasons or factors considered along the fire's active north perimeter to not extend the fuel break line between Dinky Mountain Elevation 6000 and McKinley Road from as early as September 5th to present. So we have a limited amount of resources that respond to incidents. I work the strategic operations. I work the agency administrators with the cooperators, stakeholders, and other agency representatives to identify high values. So with the limited resources we have, if we were competing with other fire He's egging me on. Okay, regarding containment, great work getting those lines black in the last few days. If the control burning was not going on, would the fire be at or nearly 100% containment, or are those lines still waiting for conditions to improve to backburn that are holding things up? All burning has been completed. All fire's edge is at our containment lines. So currently we're not planning on any more firing operations. And generally we put lines where we can hold them. So if we had lines down mid-slope, or we were trying to put fire out mid-slope, it's not always effective with personnel. We'll come up to the ridgetop, roads, or rivers is how we'll use those for lines. So generally we'll wait for the right conditions, and then we could backfire during those times. But currently, complete, job complete. End.
Thank you, appreciate that. So a lot of the questions you're hearing right now are the ones that were emailed in, so we're going to get to your questions as well. I know the folks in the room are, where's my question? We're going to get to yours as well. We've got a couple questions for resources, so we'll bring Todd back up. Yes, sir.
Okay, these questions are about the effects of retardant on water quality. So we have a cabin next to Providence Creek, several miles from the northwest corner of the Garnet fire. Our concern is over the next months as retardant gets washed away into the watershed, does it pose a health risk to humans or other animals? So I'm guessing this is outside the fire area if it's northwest, several miles from the northwest corner. And I apologize, I don't know the exact location of all the retardant applications, so we'd have to get back to you on that. But generally, retardant doesn't pose a health risk to humans or other animals. And again, we can provide some research papers on that shows that. And it's basically fertilizer at this point. But again, we'll have to get back to you on some of the specifics to that question. And we do have locations where we do apply retardant, so we have that. We'll just have to get back to you on that question. And also, I'll add that we and the team. We work closely together, the resource advisor and the team work closely together, and there's actually retardant avoidance maps that the team gets pre-season that the forest develops of sensitive areas where not to, unless there's like a very imminent risk to life and safety or the fire escaping, where we wouldn't put retardant there because of critical resources. So we have that kind of control too. The second question is, do any of the retardants used here contain heavy metals or other chemicals that could pose a health risk as we extract water from local creeks? If so, what's the recommendation for how long to wait until the water is safe? Again, I probably need a little bit more context to that question, the specific areas or area they're talking about. The retardant does not contain heavy metals, doesn't contain stuff that would pose a health risk. If the creeks are in the fire area, so one of the things that the burned area emergency response team is going to evaluate is what the potential runoff effects are that would go into the stream channels, because we know when we have heavy rainfall, we get a lot of ash and sediment and debris into the creeks. Also, that can adversely affect water quality and can adversely affect if there is people extracting water from that, that can really adversely affect that infrastructure also. So I think, the BEAR team will help evaluate that question also. Okay.
All right, thank you. We had some questions on smoke, so we're going to bring back our meteorologist, although you don't do smoke, but you can help us out. All right.
Good evening, everybody. Again, as he mentioned, smoke isn't really kind of in my lane. We do have air resource advisors. Unfortunately, we do not have one of them up here, but I'll wing it the best that I can for you. So the first question is, the diurnal fluctuations in air quality at my home on the west rim of Blue Canyon have been significant. Mornings have ranged from about 250 to over 600. I believe the highest was 679. Afternoons are in the green, 1 to 2 sometimes. What's your best estimate on how long we will be experiencing air quality issues in Blue Canyon? Well, the good news is if we get the rain that we're expecting and that I'm forecasting, those air quality issues will go away. The rain will just scrub that smoke out. It'll be nice and clear out there. We won't have any of this haze hanging around anymore. So I really do anticipate that that's going to be gone. Come Friday morning, there won't be any smoke issues. Again, I can't talk to parts per million or any of that stuff. That's kind of not my wheelhouse, but I do know that when I've been on other fires, we get the rain, it scrubs the air, and it's beautiful and back to where it is. So you can see all this beautiful country. The second question is along the same lines. It's, can you please tell us when you expect the air quality index in the Huntington Lake Basin to sustain good and moderate readings? Again, I anticipate we'll see that Friday. So I'm really hoping that's the case. I'm out there doing my dances and trying to get the rain in here, but I feel confident we're going to get some rain. Again, that confidence on how much is where there's uncertainty. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you. We got a question for fire behavior. Going to bring Kevin Montoya back up.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so the question is, how much rain for an incident-ending event? And the answer for that is about 2 to 3 inches, or about 2 inches over 3 days. But the caveat to that is that that's for a fire that isn't contained. So the containment or the ending of this incident won't be based on rain, it'll be based on containment. But if the fire was going without any containment, then we start to look at when those season-ending events could happen and how much rain would be needed. And so we can have an idea of where that would be and if it's going to line up with suppression efforts. But the shorter answer is 2 inches over 3 days. Thanks.
Thanks, Kevin. Appreciate that. Next up, we're going to bring this from the Forest staff, Chief Marquez.
Alrighty, so first question I have here is, it says, can you inspect the Forest Service land between Dinky Creek and Brits Mill Road, Quartz Mountain, Sierra Cedars, and request cleanup and prescribe fire and burns? So before I became chief here, I was a division chief here on the High Sierra District. So I worked really close with our fuel staff. We do have plans in the Blue Canyon area to do multiple burns. But when I got here in 2001, that was the focus, was trying to work in Blue Canyon along the bottom of Blue Canyon and start helping to protect the community of Shaver. So we did multiple burns down in the Blue Canyon area, worked our way up to the 18 road, did burns along the 18 road, worked our way back up, but it's been several years since we've done those burns. Right now, the burning that we're doing on the forest is up along Dinky Creek. As you guys have probably seen the last few years, we've been doing a lot of pile burning along Dinky Creek Road because of some of the sales that have been along Dinky Creek Road there. So our focus right now is doing the pile burning from those so we can continue to pull timber out and clean up behind that timber. But we are having plans. We do have a couple of burns that are along the Providence Creek Road that we're planning in the works right now, planning to get those done. A lot of piles, it's a type 2 pile burn that's along the 17 road that's in the works. We are talking about we have an agreement with CAL FIRE, the Good Neighbor Authority, that we're doing other work underneath the Shaver, that we're in the works, trying to work on those fuel breaks that are underneath Shaver all the way from Peterson Mill Road all the way around up, trying to come around Shaver to Dinky Creek Road. We are also working with Southern Cal Edison, which they have their fuel break that goes around their piece of property. I can't remember the name of it at this time, but it's the fuel break that we used also for this fire, the Garnet fire. So we did use their fuel break on their land. That's the second question. I don't know what the property looks like, a Southern Cal piece of land in there, what it's looked like. I haven't been able to make it out to that piece of the line, but I know it did burn through a portion of it, but they backfired through a lot of that stuff up in there. So hopefully it's with all the work that they had done in there, that hopefully it looks good. But I haven't been out there personally to see what the work is. But those are the things that are happening for Shaver in the community that is being worked on.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate that. We've got a lot of questions out there from the forest, so we're going to bring your district ranger back up, Kim Serini Wilson.
Okay, I want everyone to get their favorite beverage and their dessert because we're going to be here a little while, okay? So one thing that I realized I forgot to say when I was speaking earlier is that if you're wanting to go into a restricted area, we have the lovely 7700 form. So what you need to do is call our office, 559-855-5355, and ask for that form. Please realize, everyone who lives in Courtright Village, that the 45 of you will not be going in there anytime soon. We know at least it will be a few more days. So I have your list, I have your names, I have your forms. So please realize if you need to go into an area, and we worked with the officers this morning, and some people were able to go out to Thule Meadow and pick up their trailers with the escort to go in, get them, and come back out. So again, if you need the 7700 form, please call our office, 559-855-5355. All right, here we go. Dean mentioned challenges in forest management yesterday, but what specific accountability measures are in place for leadership when projects like Tea Kettle were delayed and ultimately lost? Who reviews these decisions, and how are leaders held responsible when inaction leads to preventable destruction? I'll focus on the positive there. So for Tea Kettle, we've been working on it for 7 to 8 years, and the research station that is working on that also has a grant with CAL FIRE. So they had approximately 800 acres, and when our fire staff and fuel staff looked at it, they met with the researchers to show where it could be better, a larger area. And so with the CAL FIRE grant, we were hoping to do, or they were hoping to do that in the fall. So we're helping them. It is not our project because of where it's located in Tea Kettle. Will the Sierra National Forest release a full after-action report on the Garnet fire, including decision timelines, suppression strategy changes between teams, and resource allocation, so the public can understand exactly what was done to prevent the fire from getting to the point it did? No. It will be, you would have to get it under the Freedom of Information Act, and there's only going to be certain documents that we will be releasing. Some stuff is private, not because we're keeping secrets, but because it's a discussion between the team and the fire staff on the forest. Will timber salvaged from the Garnet fire count toward the Sierra National Forest annual board feet harvest totals, or will it be treated separately? It will account for a part of our annual board feet. How will the public be able to see that data and confirm that salvage operations are happening? You will see logging trucks going to the mill down the road. If you were to go out there today, you will see, I don't know how many decks are there, but it's called whacking and stacking. They have cut the logs and they stacked them in a nice pile, and then a logging truck needs to come and get them. Note, a logging truck can't go in there right now because we have heavy equipment, so it'd be a conflict to have a logging truck and the equipment that we showed pictures of earlier. When can we expect salvage logging operations to begin in the Garnet fire footprint? As soon as we can. And what steps is Sierra taking to avoid repeating the mistakes made after the Creek fire, where delays caused significant loss of usable timber and wasted natural resources? We're logging it as soon as we can. How are funds received from timber sales in the Sierra National Forest allocated specifically? And there's 3 different points. On this one, we'll have to reply to the email because I don't have the data to respond to that appropriately. Page 2. While working on the groves for the next few weeks, does that mean they are still going to keep the road closed due to fire equipment? Or just when they clear out the most hazardous trees from the road? In other words, do you think they will open while they still work on the groves? We will not be opening the McKinley Grove Road until we know it is safe. We will work with the team that is currently here, the team that is coming in, as well as our law enforcement. Is it possible that property owners will be able to enter McKinley Grove Road without a sheriff escort once that zone reaches the cleanup repair phase? It's going to depend on the equipment that we're using out there, and again, we will work with law enforcement, hence the 7700 form that you're going to get at 559-855-5355. Major road damage was done years after the Creek fire when a heavy storm year met silted in drainages that could have been cleared with more timely maintenance. Will there be sufficient funds after the initial cleanup to address later debris flows and silt deposition that clog roadside ditches and cross drains? Yes, our engineering department would be working on that. K, 29A is not a red zone now. They're saying, you know what, people can go back in there for that. We look at it from the fire standpoint and what is the fire activity and equipment that's going in there. So the answer is going to be no, you're not going on McKinley Grove Road. You can call me and we can talk about it further, but again, the answer is no today. Road 10S01 at the end of Brett's Mill pavement has been heavily used for illegal dumping of pine needles, prunings, etc., which adds fuel to the forest floor just above the rim of Blue Canyon. With the new dozer line fuel break paralleling this road, it may also become a target for dumping forest waste from residential cleanup. Will barriers be erected to prevent access to the new dozer lines in the immediate vicinity of Shaver Lake? So we're working with the county on that road specifically, so we will have to see what we're going to do for that. And also remember, we're leaving open some of those strategic fuel breaks, so we'll have to see and work with law enforcement. Always has great ideas on how to block things and what to do, so we will be talking with them. All right, now the cards that I believe came from this room. Where on the priority list is Blue Canyon or prescribed burns? Oh, this is nice. You all have done a fantastic job. That's always good to hear. So Blue Canyon, we have two burns, prescribed burns that we're going to do in there. It's called Barnes North and Barnes South. We're hoping to do that in the fall. And if you talk to our fuels officer, he will tell you around Halloween. So look at your calendar, and when Halloween's coming, call us. Remember the number, 559-855-5355. It's going to be ingrained in your brain. Let's see. Has the Forest Service considered a permanent fire break surrounding the Shaver Lake housing developments? Well, if it's not our land, we can't do that. So on the private lands, it can be done when you work with different resource conservation districts. And so if it's SCE, they'd be working on it. If it is our land, again, we have the fuel break map that we're working with other agencies to make it complete so that we can have those in place. Is the forest planning on replanting? Any plans to thin Blue Canyon? So our district civiculturists would say, absolutely, we're going to plant. Where we're going to plant is where they're burning is where we're usually planting. So those are the priorities. And so those folks work together to get that going. And are we thinning in Blue Canyon? We will have to do some, and we have done some, but again, when we get ready to burn, they will look at all of that, and if they need to take down stuff that's still hazardous, then they will do that. And I believe, when will we be able to hunt up there? I'm assuming up there means off the McKinley Grove Road. So I don't have a date when we are going to say that road's going to open. We will have to work with the folks that are working out there to see, make a plan, and it's called a glide path as to when things are going to be decreasing. And right now, as I shared earlier, we have quite a bit of the forest open. I know you guys have your favorite spots to hunt, but there's also a lot of places that are open right now. So that's what I have for you tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Appreciate that. And I think the High Sierra District now has a jingle. You guys remember that number, right? All right, so I've got one card question for the team here, and it's about Facebook, and if we could figure out how to stop Facebook videos from cutting out at 2 minutes. No, we don't control Facebook, unfortunately, but what we did do was create a YouTube account for the Sierra National Forest Incident Management. That's on the updates we have in the back of the room. For folks online, take a look at the INSTI web page. The updates are on there. They're also on the Facebook page. But the YouTube page is on there when you guys want to watch these videos, the ones that we're doing, the virtual public meetings. Take a look at YouTube. It will not cut out at 2 minutes. You'll get to watch the complete video. With that, that's the end of the questions today. We'll continue these virtual meetings on Friday, 6 o'clock. Come join us. For the folks in the room, thank you for coming out. Our folks and their staff are going to be here afterwards. If you have questions for them one-on-ones, please come talk to us. Everyone online, thanks for joining us. We'll see you guys again soon. Thanks again. Appreciate you.